Hey guys, so I wanted to make a video about work ethics. Work ethics is something that's highly not looked at when it comes to trading card games in general, or any gaming in the grand look at all the hobbies. Um, it's weird because if you think about work and you think about hobbies, you think that they are completely separate. But hobbies require a lot of creative look at various options and then combining them to create good strategies. Or hobbies can be something that people do, like flying those remote control cars or airplane, and it's not really a competition. But hobbies that involve competition, where you're um, basically competing with two or more people in a setting, requires creative strategizing at looking at how things interact with each other at a high level. So, saying this, the thing that crossed my mind while I'm thinking about this was work ethics, and work ethics is something that people utilize on a daily basis when producing good results. So, if you're constantly someone who's in a bad mood, right, and you don't feel like ever putting in the work in anything you do, you're going to either do two things, right? One, you don't do anything, and you typically diverge off into doing something else that could improve your mood, basically. That isn't related to the work that you need to be producing. That's the first thing. The second thing is you do your tasks that you are required to do in a bad mood, but does that produce good results? So that depends on you. That comes down to intelligence, and not only intelligence, but how well you are mastered at your craft. So you can produce good results if you're in a bad mood, but that depends on your talent and um, your knowledge into that field. You cannot produce good results with a bad mood if you are constantly, telling yourself that you'd rather be doing something else. So that comes down to work ethics. So the reason why work ethic is important, and that's why companies all the time look for individuals who have really great work ethics, because they can produce things even when they're in a bad mood, and they can produce things when they're in a good mood. If you can do both, then you're a valuable asset to the company. You're not only a valuable asset to the company, but you're also valuable aspects to other people around you, even to yourself as well. So it comes down to confidence. So having good work ethics is something I wanted to explore upon a little bit more. So if you have a personality trait where you constantly have to indulge or consume materials in order to feel better before you work, you have to know that about yourself. So, um, take me for instance. So, I'm kind of low on neuroticism, which means that I require something constantly. I have to be in a good mood to produce good results. Unfortunately, that's me. So the way you deal with that, or the way I deal with that, is either I take a nap or I do something else, but only I time myself when I'm doing other things to make me feel better. If I constantly if I constantly don't time myself when I'm doing something distracting, I will sit there for hours not doing the tasks I need to do to become productive. So in order to become productive, I have to do these things, but I time myself distracted doing these things so that when I go back to the task, I can produce good results. So this got me thinking, well, how do I combine this before going to a tournament or before going into any competition for hobbies, especially? I could talk about work ethics in the workplace, but that's different than work in your creative hobbies if you choose to indulge in it. So talent is another thing I wanted to talk about before we get into the topic of um, finding time for work into the workplace. So talent is, I think, in my eyes, is poisonous. It goes back to the turtle and hare story, which talks about a a hare that is extremely talented or fast at doing his task. However, in the allotted time that he's had, he has done no preparation whatsoever in finding out how to beat his opponent. So this story um, amplifies that moral in work ethics. And so, as a result of him slacking on the race and doing everything else prior to the race or even during the race, uh, the the turtle wins the race because the turtle was able to prepare all his time into figuring out all the ways that he could win, and then eventually he won. Now you can interpret it differently and say that, well, if had the rabbit participated in the race a little more, meaning um, running instead of doing all those things, he would have won the race. And if it boils down to where um, talent and um, doing the actual task, talent and doing the actual task was the thing, then he would win. I will agree with you on that. So if if you can put that together, talent can be a poison where you end up being like the hare, in which you are distracted, and then last minute you do something, uh, within a 1 hour period, you're gonna ultimately fail the competition. And this is a story that has been transferred from context of two animals in a fable, and then transferred into a trading card game mentality, work ethics kind of thing. So it's a good thing. It's a good story for many people who don't understand how stories like that can teach us something about human behavior. So if you do have talent, you still have to prepare. You still have to actually do the task. And if you're slacking off, right, then talent is a poison. That's the conclusion I've came to. Because if you believe to yourself that you can do anything without doing any preparation time, then you're going to essentially fail or not have success in your life, or in this case, a competition. So that's what I want to talk about with talent. Now, to go back to what I was talking about with putting in the work for in your creative hobbies, you have to allow yourself time to prepare for these type of things. So uh, think of it as like training a muscle, right? Let's say your goal is to become stronger, uh, physically looking. So stronger, as in like someone looks at you and this guy is like, okay, well, I don't want to mess with this guy. Well, if that's your goal, right? The goal is to increase your muscle mass, right? So you have to consume certain food types in order to increase your bulk, right? And you have to study the type of foods that either make it so where it's longer lasting, or you just want a short term muscle mass gain. So you have to research all that stuff, and on top of that, you have to have a dedicated schedule to where every day you're doing, or every day you've allotted a certain period of time in the in your busy schedule, assuming you have a busy schedule, to do that. So someone who regularly conducts themselves to where they're a lot of time they're using it to do a certain task, and they can actually execute it rather than being distracted, will be better than someone who at the last minute, that's what goes back to the talent, who at the last minute uh, crunches his 8 hours plus in a day to do all the prep. So, this is something that's already known with people with good work ethics. So, I would suggest before any tournament commitment that you've decided on going to, if your goal is to become the one that wins the tournament, you have to put in regular playtesting sessions each day, even though your life is kind of busy. So you have to juggle these things and you have to schedule these things in order to become successful in these tournaments. So I think that's all I wanted to talk about for work ethics. Um, the main thing I want to that you have to consider is, are you valuable to yourself? Meaning, if you aren't if you aren't able to put a plan into execution, right? There's the planning step, the scheduling step, and put it into execution. Your work ethics is not good. You need to create a good work ethics because your production or your way of producing results, good results, is heavily reliant on your work ethics, right? Regardless of your mood, because if you have good work ethics, you've already catered it to your being. You're able to um, figure out ways to make sure that you produce good results whilst in a good mood. Or you can, if you can do both, where you can produce good results while in a bad mood or good mood, then you're a valuable asset to yourself and to other people, and even to corporations that are looking. It's funny because this video was supposed to be about the Dragon Ball trading card game, but here I am. I'm talking about work ethics in creative hobbies. Um, so these are things I think about when I'm training for competition. So, a little news update. I've decided to participate in the Tournament of Power team tournament. So, this is different because I'm used to preparing for events for my own self because it's usually a one-on-one, individualistic basis. But when you have a team member, that's a different thing. And then I now have like a newfound respect for coaches for any sporting team because they they're able to inspire or motivate their sports members or their team members to practice on a consistent, frequent basis to win competitions. And this is going to be a new challenge for me as I would have to motivate uh, four other people with busy schedules, with their own restrictions and their own temperament. That's another thing, temperament. That's the word I was looking for. So temperament is how well people can deal with stressful situations. Um, and if they can't deal with it well, they're not worth. I think so. Is not worth for a competition. Um, if they're constantly mad and they throw their stuff, or they just walk out to vent within like 10 to 15 minutes of intense training, they're gonna have a rough time. They're gonna have a rough time with practicing. So coaches, I think what they do when they see someone like that who's very hot tempered, and then they often are salty or just angry. Basically, they've shown that they are angry in some ways. What coaches do, I think, I don't know this for sure, but what coaches do is that they tell these players to focus their anger because it's so much energy into the work that they're required to do. But yeah, that's all I want to talk about work ethics. Um, yeah, that's it. So have a good day. Thank you.